Hey, I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and here's my review of Black Widow. So the first part of this review is going to be spoiler free. Don't worry, I'm going to give you plenty of warning before I dive into spoilers, which will be at the end of the video. Just for my general impression of the movie, I think this was a pretty fun movie. Definitely some cool moments in it. I didn't find myself bored or cringing throughout it or anything like that. At the same time, I didn't love the movie. I think the movie had kind of a flawed third act, and I think it fell into the same trap that some other movies have from the MCU that have taken place in the past. And by that, I mean Captain America, the First Avenger, and Captain Marvel have all sort of had a out of the flow of things feel to them. It's a little hard to describe, but that's just what it's felt like to me. And another thing that's a little odd in a movie called Black Widow is not really the main star of this movie, in my opinion. She probably has the most lines and the most screen time and all that, but I think Yelena definitely kind of steals the show. I think Red Guardian is a very interesting character, although mostly comic relief, but still an interesting character. The last thing I'll say on the non-spoiler side of the review here is that it is a little weird because in the lead up to this movie's release, we've seen a lot about the hypersexualization of Black Widow and kind of some interviews about Iron Man 2 and the way she was portrayed, and maybe some grumblings about how Scarlett Johansson felt about the portrayal of the character during the history of the MCU as being a little of a sexualized object. Well, I know that this movie was directed by a female, which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be free of all those trappings, but it's also a director that Scarlett Johansson clearly wanted involved in this movie. Scarlett Johansson was a producer on this film, and she had apparently a lot of say in this director. And in a film where a big part of the theme is women being used, it's really interesting to me that there were a large amount of ass shots in this movie, a lot of butt close-ups and cameras tracking on Scarlett Johansson's behind at different points. Now, look, I'm not saying that I'm personally complaining about the Scarlett Johansson booty shots in this film, and it's not just her. There's actually several female characters that happens within this film, but it felt weird. It felt kind of atonal with what's going on in this movie. It just seemed to stick out to me, and it's something that my wife and I both noticed throughout the film, and it's something that I've seen some other people comment online about. So just kind of warning you or letting you know ahead of time that that's something that is in this movie, and it's a little strange. But all that said, if you're an MCU fan, you definitely need to go see this movie or watch it home streaming, however you want to watch it in the current times we live in. And I think it's definitely worth checking out. Okay, so now let's get to the spoiler part of the movie. Spoilers from here on out. You've been warned. Okay. So now that we've got that warning out of the way, let's talk about some elephants in the room. Now, first of all, Taskmaster's outfit looks freaking terrible in this movie. I get that they were trying to go for a modern take on the character. Taskmaster just looks like somebody who's ready to go off and play paintball. And we learn throughout the course of the movie that Taskmaster is actually the daughter of the main villain and somebody who Black Widow believes that she killed. That allows for kind of this redemption arc with Black Widow where she gets to kind of help liberate that character and move forward with her, and that made for a cool moment. But it did, in my opinion, kind of diminish Taskmaster. If it wasn't for that scene, Taskmaster didn't really need to be in this movie. And besides that, I don't know what they're going to do in the future. I think there's a really good chance that the Taskmaster kind of mantle could pass on to a different character. Yeah, it just didn't really seem that necessary to me. That said, the bridge fight scene was badass. That was a pretty cool fight. But after that, I don't think Taskmaster was really that important for this movie, except for that important moment at the end. But I know a lot of people didn't want to see Taskmaster just be some brainwashed thug. And hopefully they have good plans for that character in the future. Yelena seems pretty cool, and I think that, we're definitely being set up for her to be the new Black Widow. The thing that's the most interesting to me is the after credit scene and her interaction with Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. And we know that she's obviously heavily involved with the US agent. And it makes me wonder, are we getting the Dark Avengers? Is that what's happening here? We already have our Captain America style replacement, which obviously was Norman Osborn in the comics, but that could be different, different storyline here. Or could this kind of be some sort of Thunderbolts team? I mean, we did have Ross in this movie who didn't necessarily seem like he needed to be there, but he might be there for some Thunderbolts related reasons, right? And we do learn that Yelena is going to be, at least presumably, going after Hawkeye, and we know Hawkeye has a new series coming up. So going to be a lot going on, definitely some setup. Not really the most exciting post-credit scene. It was actually kind of a touching moment and then sort of got played for comedic effect, but we did get some setup. So that's usually what we expect from post-credit scenes, and this one was no different. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna say about the movie is that I think this was kind of an oddly fitting coda for Black Widow's character. I mean, the last shot we see of her, she's walking away to a Quinjet to go to the events of the Infinity Saga. And I think that's just an oddly fitting end for her character. I definitely think there's a chance that we could see another movie that's kind of an interstitial take place, or some kind of weird return for her character. Never say never, especially with comic books and comic book movies. But I think this was kind of a cool ending, and it was an enjoyable film. It's not like it was all bad, but I definitely had some interesting problems with the story and the way that they handled things. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's an MC movie. It's not the best. It's not the worst. So I'd give this one 3 out of 6 Infinity Stones. Definitely let me know what you think about Black Widow in the comments down below. And thanks for watching this video, everybody. I want to remind you, as always, hey, read comics every day.